Hey, as usual, we'll give people a few minutes to join. Hey, Demetrius. Hey, Demetrius.
Hello, Joe. Hello, everybody.
So saying as usual, wait a few minutes for people to join up. If there any other agenda items, you can let me know anytime. I've got that we want to review the vendor code integration, GitHub plus build structure. Decision that I think we reached, but we should do one more review and then agree that that's how that we're all set. And then next week we have Comcast. So that should be a very good session. Let's give I expect we should get Dan. Let's give him just a couple of minutes. Check Slack, make sure. We'll start at 5 after, no matter what. Artek, do you want to share your screen to walk through this?
Yes, yes.
Okay, let me go off of sharing. And, all right, now you can.
Okay. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Can you start, right?
Yeah, let's just give one more minute and then you can
Okay.
get started. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Does anyone,
Okay.
but before you, does anyone else have any other topic for today? So next week we have Comcast. We can talk about use case and ideas and requirements.
Right.
And does anyone have any other agenda topic for today?
Nope.
right, great. All right, take it away, Ty.
Okay. So last time I provided a short introduction, only verbally, how we are going to reuse the code from different OPI domain repos. But now I have some slides to show, right? At this moment in OPI, we have a couple of domain repos like OPI VPN bridge, SPDK bridge, transform bridge, right? And the rule we want to introduce here is that we do not allow any vendor plugins in such domain repos. If you want to use some code from such repos, we need to provide plugins located in vendor repos. Let's take a look at the diagram. Here we have domain bridge, right, with some core package. Inside core we have, let's say not one class, but many classes, right? I just draw one for simplicity. And we have an interface to implement that plugin. And as you can see, we have two classes which implement that plugin. One located here in core, just to provide some basic functionality to demonstrate OPI on Linux machines, right? And we have another plugin in vendor bridge to work with a real XPU. And this interface should hide with whom core communicates at the moment. So it can be like virtual XPU plugin or vendor plugin. And as you can see for the main plugin, main is responsible to get all the pieces together and run. And for vendor bridge, we have also main, which is responsible to fetch the core component here and inject the right plugin and run the whole system, right? It is just an example. I assume that in different domain repos, we can see different cases, but this one is the most basic one. So vendors are allowed to use any language capabilities to inject their plugins, etc., etc. But we need to keep in mind the main rule that no vendor plugins are allowed in such domain repos. Okay, and also some questions were raised, like where to keep the repo with those plugins, how to organize repo structure, should vendor build a single app or multiple apps per domain, how to organize build process, etc., etc. And the answer to all those questions that it's up to a vendor to decide. Vendors are free to organize their repos in the way they feel optimal. OPI doesn't dictate to vendors how to organize their repos. And we can get back to the main rule that OPI dictates only that no vendor plugins are allowed in such domain repos, right? Also, we have Intel pioneering this approach, right? And I'd like to share some details how Intel is going to approach it. So repo, we already have a repo with some Intel code for storage here within OPI organization for better visibility, but it's possible that it can be changed later and we have Intel bridge inside Intel organization, right? But at the moment we are going to have that approach implemented inside OPI Intel bridge within OPI project organization, right? It was decided that we are going to go with one app as the simplest solution. And there are multiple reasons why we selected this approach. Some of them is uniformity of used libraries. So it's much easier to start as a single app and use the same set of libraries than start as multiple binaries, diverge somewhere, and if you need to join everything together, it's going to be much more difficult, right? Also, it would provide some uniformity with within such important services like telemetry, storage, etc., etc. Also, we suspect that complexity can grow rapidly, and one day we will be forced to separate our single app to multiple applications, right? This is our plan B, and we are prepared for that. We will keep an eye on different sides of the project. Like, we are going to keep the very minimum in the main, so no domain details should leak into main, right? So all details are going to be in the corresponding domain packages within OPI IntelliBridge, right? If different domains need to communicate with each other, we are going to communicate over interfaces, but only if needed, right? We just anticipate that it can be possible, so we kind of speculate here. Since we have a single app, so we are going to use command line arguments or config file to decide which domains to run, like EVPN, storage, or not to run. For example, we may decide that we need to run only EVPN on some APUs, or only storage on some APUs, etc., etc. And it implies that we are not going to use compilation text, right, in our project, just to make the thing simple. And during the discussion, there were some concerns why we need to communicate between domains by means of interfaces. So I prepared some diagrams to show why it can be useful. An example on this diagram, domain 1 wants to communicate with domain 2, but also you can see that we have interface here. So domain 1 doesn't know with whom it communicates, right? So with domain 2, right, directly. So originally with the single app, it's gonna be just a function call. Also, our repositories, they are written in Go, and Go provides nice interfaces similar to what we have in Python with tag typing. So I assume we won't even need to apply much work, right, to go on with this approach, right? But let's imagine that the complexity grows and we need to split into multiple apps. Like here we have main running this domain and main running this domain, right? And you can see that we still have core components here, and we have the same interface, but this time behind that interface we have some client which can communicate over some protocol with domain 2, right? And in such way we will be able call the required method on domain 2, right? We don't know which protocol we will choose. It depends on our needs, but definitely, as you can see, this diagram is much more complex than the case when we have a single app. right? And basically that's all. Probably I'd like to get back a bit and just say that again, that the only thing OPI would demand is no vendor plugins in these domain repos. And what I've been talking here is just an Intel approach, and other vendors may decide differently. That's all. Any questions?
Yeah, thanks, Artek. Discussion, additional points, questions?
Yeah, I just would like to share something that we have discussed with Artek offline in a chat. Is that I mean, from a EVPN bridge perspective, where I'm leading the effort there, and the discussion that I had with Artek, the design that he has here is not is
It's not
can
mandatory.
actually no, it can actually fit with the changes that we would like to do in the restructurings of EVPN and Intel Bridge repos for sure. But because so the design here, I can understand it more or less, but maybe because I'm missing some things, I would like to propose, and I think Artek has also um, agreed on that if the TSC decides that whatever Artek is proposing here is correct, and we can continue with this approach, I would like to have like a minimum implementation first of the design in order to be sure that everything is working correctly and we are not missing any important details from the design before we go and do the whole big bang of implementation and restructuring. Like
Yeah,
a minimal implementation first. Just for example, I think it will be in benefit of the design, just to be sure that we are not missing anything.
right. So you want a small proof of concept and you want
Yes.
everyone to agree that this will be the approach. So that you don't have to change again in 2 months, in which case you know, that would be very bad. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah.
So, I think both of those are fair. Other questions, thoughts, opinions?
Yeah, so Joe, I went ahead and did a POC to see how the build tags would work. I built a basic bridge configuration, so I can actually now turn on and off features using build tags. That is an alternative approach that could be, or even expanded into this eventually. So vendors can either use, I know Intel is approaching it from not using the build tags, but other vendors can approach it from using build tag mechanism. It does work. You can turn on and off feature sets.
Okay, and did you also, as a consequence of doing that testing, test this core structure that's been described?
I had to re-architect a bridge. So the way that it's built out is a little different than this, but it's similar. There's a core component, and then you have to build out the framework for allowing you to attach things to the MUX. So there's like a MUX that's built into the bridge, which allows you to attach all the different services. So you have to build out the framework for the MUX that adds that in, and then you have to build a stub, which basically is, if you don't want that feature turned on, it just implements a stub function, which is basically just a return.
Okay, so the restructuring you did to do the similar approach to what Artek is describing here.
Yep.
What are the differences? How much difference is it? And
you really just have to build where you would see the thing that's showing there in OPI vendor bridge where it says main and it's making the calls. You would have a call that says, here's a tag to enable the particular vendor bridge function, for example, right? And you have a build tag that enables that. You then have a build tag that is a negative of that. And it's in a separate file. And when you do the negative approach, it basically has nothing more than a return stub for the call. So that when it builds, it does nothing more than doesn't turn anything on, doesn't attach anything, etc.
Do you have that code in some branch? Could you share so
Yeah, I
we
can
could
share.
take
I
it?
share it with you, Arctic. Yeah, I
Thank you.
created a dummy branch for myself to play with. So
And share
And
it with me, Mark Sanders, also, if you can, Mark.
yeah, share with
Sure.
everyone, notify everyone of where that is.
sure.
And if that could line up with what our tech has presented, and Demetrius is like, yeah, I see this works, and it will do the job I need it to do for the EVP and bridge work.
Yeah.
Then I think we're pretty much set. Because again, some form of this is fine. My big objection was let's imagine, we get a proliferation of applications at some point. Can we break it up to not have an unwieldy monolithic main? And the answer that came back and just reviewed is yes.
Yeah.
In the meantime, if you only want to build a subset, Mark just added a way to build a subset off of I'll call it small monolithic main. Big monolithic main we avoid by breaking it up. There's a clean way to do that with this structure. And in the meantime, you can have a fairly simple approach. The build tags enhances it, but it wouldn't be required, because if you just enabled all the build tags, same thing as just not putting them in there.
Yep.
So that's not much of a difference to my mind. And
And
so,
they don't. Yeah, this what I did only works right now. We can turn on and off the inventory capability. So
okay,
that's how I built it out. I'm gonna add storage to it as I go forward, but that's just adding another block of code into the same set.
right. But the point is that you're following this basic structure just with build tags added, question mark?
Yeah, the build tags added.
Okay, so if that can be our POC, so if we can get that, let people look at that and that's our POC, then, and everyone's like, yeah, I can make that work, and I see the path forward if we ever had to break it up more, and it has the nice feature of the GitHub structure is actually clean, right? The layering and the separation of concerns is actually clean in this approach. So then, are we all set? Again, if you have any objection at all, say it. I mean, it's perfectly okay. Or if you want something explained in more detail, say it.
Joe, I'm a bit skeptical about this one because the POC that Mark has created maybe is too simplistic if you compare it with the EVPN bridge, which has like a big amount of design and code right now there. So I think, and this is my personal opinion, that if we are going to create a POC, I think it will be better to create a POC as, using the VPN bridge as a base, uh, um, making in that POC like some basic function, some basic call to work, like creating a VRF, and see how this will work with the restructuring of the code that will happen in that POC.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Mark?
that's fine. No, that's fine. We should make the POC bigger. All I wanted to do was prove that you can turn things on and off. So
Yeah, I
Mark,
think the box should be a bit bigger and include
yeah.
also the EVPN restructuring a bit, just for a basic request like a VRF, creation of a VRF, just to be sure that all the plumbing is working and the restructuring is also working, makes sense also before we move forward. Yeah.
okay, so Artec, Mark, Demetrius, how do we make that happen? Because I mean, again, my understanding says there won't be a fundamental issue in making it happen. It's a little bit of restructuring and just a little bit of work. But again, proving that would be a good idea. I agree. So Mark, Artec, do you guys think if you work with Demetrius, that could get done?
I can have I can be a consultant to this effort, but right now I have some functional deliverables that I need to focus on. So I can participate in meetings with Mark and Art and Artec, but maybe if you guys can actually write the actual code for the POC, that would be best. I don't know what is your availability right now. I can help you with that, but I'm not sure if I will be able to write any code right now.
I know I can work on it over the next couple of weeks, and then I'm going to be on vacation for the latter part of September and into October.
Right, so if we could get that done before, if we could get it done before that, then I think that would be, then it could, then again, Demetrius could pick it up and finalize it and we could make this happen, and then we'll just say, look, all other modules follow follow the template. Follow this approach.
Okay, maybe I can have a meeting with Mark and Artec offline, a side meeting in order to discuss that next week, probably, or tomorrow, and we can see what is the agreed way forward with the implementation of the POC. What do you think of that?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah, please organize.
All right, excellent. Any other thoughts, questions, comments?
What's the versioning requirement between vendor plugin and core plugin? Like, is there anything like version check or?
No requirements. It's up to domain repos. So to define that interface, and then just vendor needs to implement that. I suppose if there are specific vendor needs, right? So we can adjust domain repo according to those needs, right? Taking into account other vendors who might use that repo.
So they have to just progress in lockstep is what we are saying.
Expand on that thought some.
Like if there is an incompatibility in the interface, like let's say one of them progresses while the other doesn't, an API interface changes, right?
I suppose
Then
if
it
we
doesn't.
define interface, it should be stable enough, right?
Yeah, that's the
We
question. Like, is there a API versioning or interface versioning?
not yet. There are no many like users of this approach, right? But we can think of it when we have users, right?
Okay.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, does anyone object to this being the approach we take going forward? Again, pending that the POC over the next couple of weeks actually works, but I see nothing that would suggest it would not. So does anybody object to using this approach going forward with the tag approach optional? All right. So I'll put in the notes that we agree to this approach and we'll do a POC with the EVPN bridge. All right, any other topics or thoughts at all? And the slides, Artek, can you upload the slides or recast them in terms of a markdown, copy and paste into a markdown, and then post that link and we'll attach it to the notes?
Yes, I'll share the presentation.
Okay. All right, anything else? All right. All right, next week will be a good one. Paul, if you want to write a little, hey, everybody, come to the meeting, and post it on all the relevant mailing lists and then Slack, I think that would be good to advertise for next week.
Sure. Yeah, I'll get that going and send it the beginning of next week. And also I'll send an email to Robert Gatos and remind him and ask him. Yeah, tell him he's got as much time as he wants of the hour of the meeting. And if we've got other business, we can do that too.
Right. And then as a reminder, I will be out at least the 15th, at least the 12th and 19th and probably the 26th as well. So Tim, you're up to run those 2 or 3 meetings.
Yeah, I've been hearing that messaging, Joe.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. It's early for, I had to drive into the office today, so I had to get up at 5:45 and get on the road at 6. So it's early for me. All right, thank you, Tim, and thank you, everyone. Thank you, Artek and Mark and Demetrius. All right, let's see what the result of the POC is, and we should be good. And
all right,
we're done for today. Thank you, everyone.
thank you much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.